Hey guys, what's going on? Blaine back for another Netflix review, and today I'm going to be talking about Zom 100, Bucket List of the Dead. Zom 100 Bucket List of the Dead is a Japanese horror comedy movie based on the manga series of the same name, and tells the story of Akira Tendo, a company man who submits himself to being overworked under a false sense of financial security. One day while preparing for work, he suddenly finds himself in the middle of a zombie outbreak. Rather than being horrified by the situation, he's instead elated at the idea of not having to go to work because of the outbreak. To celebrate his newfound freedom, Tendo designs a bucket list of goals for him to accomplish before he dies or becomes a zombie. Although I haven't read the manga this movie is based on, I can definitely say I had a lot of fun watching it. It has some issues with its pacing and presentation, but it ended up being one of the more unique zombie movies I've seen in recent years, on account of its characters, entertaining horror, and uplifting presentation. Tendo was a very fun protagonist right from the start. He stands out immediately because of his pure joy to do whatever he wants, even in the face of all this death and destruction surrounding him, so his unbridled positivity made it easier to become attached to him. As the movie progresses, it shows details of how his work affected him to the point that it affected his relationships with others. This was great in explaining where his sudden positivity comes from, showing how bad his situation really was before the outbreak, and reinforcing his determination to make things right again. There's a number of other characters who make the story more interesting too, the most notable of whom are Tendo's friend Kensho and a mysterious woman named Shizuka. They both have their own unique relationships with Tendo and grow out of the dread of their situations just by tagging along with him, and it's great to see their arcs take shape in this way. There aren't many other important characters other than them, but there's a variety of personalities the group encounter along the way. Whether it's a scared pair of neighbors, a cowardly bus driver, or Tendo's scumbag boss, they all play their role in the story and interact with Tendo in interesting ways. The standout characters for this movie though, apart from Tendo, are the zombies that take over the city. They're not much different from the usual movie zombies, but they're still a convincing and terrifying threat for the trio to deal with. The makeup, blood, and other practical effects used to portray them look great, and the sounds they make are creepy as hell. Despite how scary they can be, they also prove to be a good source of comedy. They have a weakness in the form of being easily distracted by music and other sounds, which the characters often take advantage of to get to safety. It's hilarious to see the zombies just drop everything and chase after music speakers, and often to their downfall. I was surprised at the lack of zombie kills in this movie compared to the number of people the zombies kill and subsequently infect. However, I think it's a nice change of pace from the usual zombie fare. It gives them more of a menacing presence, which forces characters to think of more creative ways to outrun and outwit them, and this in turn raises suspense. The movie does a good job at conveying a horror atmosphere in the right moments. The chase scenes between humans and zombies are intense, especially when they happen in claustrophobic settings, and the violence is gruesome without being over the top. I did find the movie became a lot more ridiculous later on, and anyone who's seen the movie will know exactly what moment I'm talking about. It was pretty jarring how relatively grounded the rest of the movie was, only for things to suddenly become insane in the final act. And while it is fun, it still kinda took me out of the movie. In fairness, most of the movie in general is lighter in tone, which is another thing that surprised me about it. In an age where most zombie movies are darker and more hopeless in nature, it's refreshing to see one that's a lot more upbeat and not so bogged down in moodiness. In this regard, the movie's central concept plays a big role. Tendo's bucket list effectively carries the movie, showing how much time Tendo missed while he was working and how he makes up for it. It was a blast to see how many different activities he got to do and how unique they all were. The environments feel brighter and more colorful, the background music is always peppy and cheerful, and there's a carefree nature brought about by the characters throughout the story. There's still an element of danger to it, but it feels much more laid back, which is a nice change of pace and allows the audience to focus better on the character-oriented moments. He comes up with and pursues many ideas, like having drinks with flight attendants, creating a self-portrait on a skyscraper, and going on an RV trip across the country. Tendo is so happy and focused on his goal that not even the zombie apocalypse can get him down, and his optimism transcends to other characters, which is heartwarming to see. It's definitely more of a comedy in this way, as opposed to the usual emotional drama centered around zombies. There's just something funny about how much despair everyone finds themselves in, while Tendo goes about his business smiling and laughing. However, the movie, with the exception of the final act, never comes across as being totally ridiculous either. It has its fair share of humanizing moments as well, where Kensho makes up with Tendo for the animosity they previously had, while Shizuka opens up more and starts to let go of her trust issues. It strikes a good balance between being silly and serious. As fun as the bucket list can be though, I found it became a bit aimless after a while. The story seemed to be made up as it went along, as it shifts focus between the bucket list, to interacting with a group of survivors, then the bucket list again, then finding refuge, and then the bucket list again, and it just felt all over the place. The pacing always seemed to change at a moment's notice, which kind of makes sense as Tendo's list is spontaneous in nature, but with that spontaneity comes a fairly scatterbrained plot. It's still a lot of fun and all the moments are executed well, but they don't gel together as well as they could have. This being said, the movie's main theme helps make up for this. It explores a very serious issue in Japanese culture, in which people overwork themselves, ignore their own passions for financial security, and bottle up their feelings over time, and I enjoy the subtle and effective way the movie examines this. It highlights the point that it's better to be free and exposed to the world than to be trapped in a safe environment. One can argue that people who neglect their own well-being are already zombies themselves, and it's inspiring to see a protagonist like Tendo grab life by the horns and start living life on his own terms, even in the face of so much death around him. Overall, Zom 100 Bucket List of the Dead is an enjoyable zombie movie that's a much-needed breath of fresh air for the genre. If you like zombie movies and want to watch one that's more light and breezy compared to others, you'd enjoy checking this out. Despite the disorganized nature of the story, the movie maintained a consistent sense of fun throughout, while still being a bloody good time with its horror. I don't know if this will cross anything out of the fan's own bucket list, as I don't know how it compares to the manga or anime, but for me at least as a newcomer, the movie ticked off most of the boxes. What did you think about this movie? Was it a good live-action adaptation, or did you find it disappointing instead? Let me know in the comments below. Anyways guys, that's going to wrap up my review of Zom 100 Bucket List of the Dead. Thanks for watching this video, I hope you enjoyed it, and as always stay tuned for the next part, where next time I review the Saudi Arabian comedic thriller Head to Head. Bye bye!